first things first. And I just want to say that it's a very weird feeling because I was literally here in your exact same seat like years ago. So as a UCLer, I think my first UCL experience started 10 years ago and I'm still a UCLer after all these years. And to me, I remember that especially during year 1, year 2, even year 3, I felt like such an outsider and I felt so overwhelmed. Oh my God, everyone is just smarter than me. How am I going to make it? And you just have so much anxiety and your confidence level is just so low, especially because UCL is such a competitive place. So never ever would I have thought that I'm going to reach this stage. But I somehow created my own pathway. I don't believe in just following the crowd and doing the exact same thing that everyone does. And I was just trying to combine a couple of different things together and see exactly what I love doing most. Because exactly like you, the big question, the million-dollar question one, is what the hell I'm going to do with my life after I graduate? Because you have so many opportunities, but at the same time, the things that are being advertised to you by your lecturers is just 1% of what's happening in the field. And I feel that the majority and the magic really happens outside of academia or when you look outside in non-traditional places, especially in life sciences. So I kind of dedicated my pathway to doing things the atypical way, and again, not following the crowd. So a bit about me, I did my BSc and my master's here in human genetics. So I started off with the biological sciences 4-year program, and in year 2 you can decide, so I decided to go for human genetics. Did my master's here as well because it felt like a nice continuation. I know that loads of people decide to do their masters elsewhere, like Imperial or going to Cambridge or whatever, but I just felt that UCL was a good decision for me at least, because I knew the people here, I knew the lecturers, I started to make some contacts at that point, and it just felt natural for me to stay here and nurture the contact that I already created rather than starting from scratch. So I did my master's, then a PhD, now I'm in my 4th year of the PhD at the Institute of Women's Health, changed careers a bit. And also, I'm a teaching fellow here, organizing and directing the Masters in Personalised Medicine and Novel Therapies at ICH, so Institute for Child's Health. If you're interested in Masters, we were just having a chat. So the Masters that I had was the one, again, human genetics, part of the Division of Biosciences. And it was okay, but not the most exciting time of my life. And now I kind of got to join this team at ICH and I just realized, wow, this is completely different. This is so cool and so much better than what we were used to having here in Division of Biosciences. So we have students joining from all sides and all fields. Majority of them, yes, are biologists, but loads of medics as well. People who have done law or like all sorts of crazy things, or people who are CEOs of biotech companies, or, you know, there's so many roles, and they come here for this program, and rather than going very deep into the science aspects, we teach them to go and look outside the bubble. So we have entrepreneurship lectures, we talk to companies, we invite biotech startup founders to come and talk to the students. And I'm going to show you a bit about other cool things that we do. But for example, we really encourage students, everything is very hands-on, very workshop-based. We really encourage students to come up with their own ideas. Okay, think about the product that you can launch with working in groups with your group. Think about that, and you do that for a term. At the end of the term, we go to UCL Base KX, which is the entrepreneurship base at UCL. And then we get lectured and really hands-on how you have the idea, what's the next step, how do you create your own company, so on and so forth. And for example, 2 years ago, 2 of my students on the program, they were biologists. One of them was a biologist, the other one was a doctor. They never knew each other before the masters. But they started a company from scratch without having anything, like a ring that can be used for patients in the hospital to monitor the vital signs. So that would save so much time from the time of the nurse. So the nurse would need to come in otherwise, but you have this ring, so it measures CO2, blood pressure, motion sensor if the patient is falling in the toilet or something like that. And again, from scratch, they started with that idea, and now they are one of the most successful London companies in biotech. And it all started 2 years ago, and they met on that program. So it's all about making connections and thinking outside the box rather than, come on, learning the nitty-gritty of the science and then realizing that in 2 years from now, you're not gonna remember anything. It's just the essence that you need to be aware of rather than the details. But anyway, I got to do many different things, very, very different. Now I work in vitro fertilization in the genetic side, so reproductive genetics. I'm going to tell you in a second how I reached that. But also I'm very passionate about technologies and implementing technology into research rather than just, for example, researching the role of a protein for 20 years and your entire life is just structured on that protein and you're never going to see the application of your work because that's kind of probably going to emerge after you're dead. So to me, I really love translational research. I love research, but I want to see the application of what I'm doing, otherwise I get bored out of my brains. But I published a lot, but then realized that during undergrad, you just focused on, oh my god, I need a publication, having a publication would be so cool, and that's going to unlock so many levels, professional levels in my career. And then I did that and realized that it didn't change anything, that no one really cares about these publications, but the most important thing is having a mentor. And luckily, I found my people. I found people who were willing to mentor me. In this picture, that's my favorite one. The granny there, her name is Veronica Franklin. The name may sound familiar. She's actually, so her niece was Rosalind Franklin, the discoverer of the DNA. And this is me with Veronica at her house, holding the original picture with Rosalind Franklin, the one that, I guess, all of us recognize from the biology books that we had at school. So she's really, really marching for the role of women in science and how important it is to have role models, especially as girls, because from studies and from the literature, we know that our confidence levels as girls are much lower than our male friends. And she's really doing loads of work on that, and we decided to do a couple of things together. But I guess the most important thing that I realize is that every single person or experience anything, even though it seems like it's completely unrelated now at this very moment in time, every single experience or person is going to add something to your journey. You have something to learn from everyone, even if the person you're talking to is a lawyer. So anyone will play a part in your journey, but you only can make sense of that. So it's the saying, you only connect the dots if you're looking backwards. If you look backwards, everything will kind of make sense. But people is much more important than actually publications or getting that first, or all those things that we think are so important at uni. I had the exact same problem as you. What am I going to do after I graduate? I've done my master's, which seemed like a normal progression. I knew I wanted to do a master's, not necessarily the best master. As you can see, I'm not really advertising it, the one at Biosciences division. But then here came the big question. Do I want to do a PhD, or what am I going to do after the master's? Any of you thinking of doing a PhD? I know it sounds like a distant future, but
maybe.
Yeah.
Question marks there. Yeah.
I mean, it also depends on like the economic situation.
Yeah, I had the exact same question, and I feel like I'm not the kind of person who dreams about research. I love research, but I like the application side of it more, and not necessarily I'm not that person sitting in the lab and loving going to the lab during weekends just to check on my cells. Like, I love the science, but there needs to be a boundary there. But again, I felt super, super lost. Do I go now and search for jobs? I don't even know what I'm going to do. And PhD felt like, okay, if I'm going to do a PhD, this is going to give me more time. You go through the application hell, which is literally a hell for applications, because the biggest problem is funding. And there's also a couple of charities or programs offering funding to students to go into PhDs. And the majority of the PhDs, you apply for a position, but you are given a list of, let's say, 5 PhD projects, and before you apply, you actually need to pick the project that you want to apply for. So this means that for the rest of 3 or 4 years, you're going to be stuck with that project, with that supervisor. And that's fine, it might seem fun, but 90% of PhD projects change completely in 3 or 4 years. Plus, that supervisor may be an asshole. And it's far more important to have a nice group and a nice supervisor rather than having a cool project. Let's be honest again, the majority of the research is just going to sit there in academic papers, and it's not going to see the light of the day as a translational thing. And again, it's not really satisfying and fulfilling to you as a researcher to see your work, again, not being applied to anything. So, what did I do? I tried to think backwards. If I were to do a PhD, what kind of skills do I want to get by the end of it? It's all about the skills, things that will make you more employable. So I decided that I want to do something that has to do with the latest things, AI, maybe CRISPR, things that, again, would make me employable. You've probably seen that everything is about AI in life sciences. All these companies are kind of promoting the idea of AI. We do some computational biology during the degrees, which comes very, very handy. But at the same time, you're, again, faced with a big decision. I got the money, and that was a kind of different PhD situation. I get the money, and then you're allowed to choose any project, any UCL supervisor that you want from any department. So that's a different route to a PhD, which I would highly recommend. But if you get to that point and you really want a PhD, I can just load you with all the tips that I have, because it's a challenge in itself. So I knew that I wanted something that has to do with humans rather than researching the Drosophila or the C. elegans. So something in humans, definitely, and again, something that has a bit of innovation and something that can be translated into something that I actually see. So I think I sent 200 emails, random people at UCL, people I never ever met in my life. I just Googled UCL people doing genetics-y things in humans. And on LinkedIn, I just came across someone very cool from Institute of Women's Health, Helen O'Neill. So she's like super badass, super nice, super young researcher geneticist. And she founded her own company, democratizing and starting a reproductive revolution. So the fact that us as women, there's no way to know how much time you've got left until it's too late for you to start a family. For example, by age 36, we have a chance of about 20 to 30% to have a pregnancy. By age 40, that chance decreases to less than 5%. And we are very competitive, and we want to have strong careers and all that, but majority of people don't know these things, and that's how you end up with in vitro fertilization and so many things that are not necessarily very good for us. They could have been prevented if the right education was there. But anyway, so I started the project with Helen, working with the clinic on Harley Street, an IVF clinic, looking at embryos. So what you see here is the image of the embryo. Once the embryo is created, we put them in what is called a time-lapse incubator. So the incubator mimics the environment of the uterus, but it also has small cameras attached to the incubator. So we monitor the embryos 24/7 up until they reach day 5 or 6. And this is the stage where they are nice and fine to be transferred back into the womb to result in a pregnancy. But not all of them result in a pregnancy. Actually, less than 20% of them result in a pregnancy. So we decided to use AI on these images and to train AI to tell us which embryo has the highest likelihood to succeed and to lead to a pregnancy. In order to train the AI to do that, we did genetic testing on these embryos. So this is an embryo on day 5 or 6, so this reached the right stage of development. And you have something inside here, so this is the part that's actually going to result in the baby, and this part is the trifecta, which is going to result in the placenta. But the genetic composition of this and this should be identical, 99% identical. So on day 5 or 6, we go there and we literally perform microsurgery on the embryo. So we go with a very small pipette. I actually can show you a video. We go with a very small pipette inside and with laser, and we cut 5 to 10 cells from here with laser, so very, very precise. We take these cells out, we send them to the genetics lab, and we do sequencing to see exactly if we have aneuploidies or abnormal chromosome numbers like extra chromosome 21, Down syndrome, or extra chromosome 13. That will never ever result in a pregnancy. So the idea being that if you have 5 embryos and you only need to pick one, you do genetic testing on all of them, and you're only going to transfer the one that is euploid and normal, that has the right chromosome numbers. So yeah, we are training AI models based on genetics of these embryos and based on how they develop to be able to kind of create the next generation of babies with technology and kindness. But I felt so that I finally fell in love with something that I actually love, because I've tried loads of things in my undergrad and masters, and I just felt that, okay, I like doing things, but it never clicked with me. Plus, again, in biosciences, in the department, we were being given the same lectures on C. elegans and Drosophila, or stem cells maximum. So I never got exposed to what's happening in IVF, for example. Like, never ever. I've never had a lecture on embryology and what's happening with human embryos. So that to me was like, wow, I really found my thing. But I remember how in university we just focus on the assignments, the grade, getting that first, everyone fighting and killing each other because it's a competition, who gets the first this year. And I remember that I was feeling so anxious during my degree. I finally finished with the first for both my BSc and my Masters, but again realized that that's not really helping me with anything. Because at the end of the day, all of my course mates, we were gonna be graduating with the exact same degree. So you need something to really help you differentiate. And I remember having a girl on my course, and she was constantly so stressed, so she was never enjoying herself. She was studying, I think, 20 hours out of 24, so constantly trying to get it and grinding, and oh, I really want to get that first. And I decided, I think in year 3, to just take a break and relax, and what's going to be is going to be. And the fact is that you cannot concentrate, you cannot actually study for more than 3 or 4 hours per day. Yes, if you go to the library for 8 hours and then brag about it to your friends, that 8 hours is not actually studying. It's you meeting your friends or getting a message with some dogs on Instagram or something like that, but that's not studying. So I realized that if I study like really deep focus for 3 hours, in those 3 hours I can achieve so many things that would have taken me like probably 8 hours. So in the rest of the time I decided to enjoy in traveling and things that I really loved. So this is me traveling in year 3 when I had a dissertation to do, reaching all these places. This is me sleeping with my head on the table at JFK airport in New York. My flight was coming to London at 12 p.m. the next day. My dissertation submission was 3 p.m. the same day. So from the airport, from JFK, I did an all-nighter trying to finish my dissertation, the final bits. This is me, without getting any sleep at UCL, handing in my dissertation, and still got the first. While my friend, who again grinded 20 hours out of 24, yes, she reached that first in the end, but the anxiety that she felt and not enjoying those years, I feel that was a big mistake, and I would definitely encourage you not to do the same. Take things step by step, and again, when you study, put that phone in another room. I know it's very hard, but do 3 hours, but the rest of the day is yours. You claim your time back, which I think is such a basic concept, but the fact that we have social media and we're constantly disturbed by other messages and emails and all that, I think it's eating our lives away, in a way. So definitely try and differentiate yourself from others as much as possible and try to live your life as well. And the fact that so I tried to do loads of different things during my undergrad, trying to find other pathways, trying to really differentiate myself from others. And then I realized that, well, science is not just academia. We are just brainwashed, especially a couple of years ago. I was only being surrounded by people in academia and people who were only preaching about how great the academia is. So I never had a chance to meet people who founded companies, like you were saying about organizing that event. I really wish I had that, especially my course mates who had, literally, they had no idea that you can have a career as a science writer. The only option in our mind was, okay, we're going to be doing a master's, then PhD, then that's your life. There's no way out of the system. And then I realized that actually you can join the dark side or the industry, and that science has changed a lot. So in the past we used to have big pharma companies, and when you were saying that you want to go outside of academia, automatically your job would have been in a big pharma company. But now a change happened around 5 or 6 years ago, where big pharma companies are not dominating the market anymore. Actually, the market is being dominated by small biotech startups. And even if you look at the vaccines, you have the BioNTech and Pfizer. Actually, BioNTech is a small startup from Cambridge. From Germany, sorry. Germany and Cambridge. But they were the ones who actually came up with the idea of the vaccine. Pfizer was there just to facilitate the manufacturing of the drug because they had the facility. Then Oxford Biomedica and AstraZeneca. Oxford Biomedica, small startup, founded 1 year before they actually created the vaccine. The idea was theirs. AstraZeneca just came in with the manufacturing side. So all these innovations actually happened inside startups. And that's why the market now is being dominated by those startups. Why? Because now you have so many things that you can research, but you may not necessarily know which one of them is going to be successful. So you have option A, you throw money into all the pots and trying to see what sticks and what you can turn into a successful drug, but that's so expensive. And again, you have a 1 in 100 chance of discovering something. So it's getting too expensive. Or you let small startups discover on their own. You have thousands of startups trying things out. Once someone is about to discover something, you as a big pharma company, you prefer to buy them with their technology and everything, and you already save so much money. Because you're buying something that you know has a higher chance of being successful. And again, there's so many things that you can do. These people are genuinely desperately looking for interns, looking for talents to hire from very good university, and the fact that your UCL is already a stamp for them, and it's such a good thing. And again, those people are desperate. Those people are paying insane amounts of money to recruitment agencies, trying to find students for them to join them for summer internships and as talent afterwards for them to be employed. And they don't really have time to come and meet the students. And that's why if you put yourself forward and meet these people, your job is gonna be, like, rest assured, your job is gonna be there. And there's a PhD student, a friend of mine, who wrote this one, the salmon leap. You know how the salmon is always swimming against the stream, not with the stream. And you just need to find opportunities yourself and be that salmon. And realize that, again, in academia, yes, academia is fine, but not all things in academia will result in something that you can see, and not to mention salaries and all of that. I mean, it's a shit show. But again, try opportunities yourself and try to be there, put yourself out there, and get experiences from as many places as possible. University is not everything, because again, once you graduate, all of you, all the course mates, all of you are going to have the exact same experience. So as an employer, how would I know who to get for the job if you're all the same? And this is a pretty good tip that I applied 3 times successfully. Between year 1 and year 2 of my degree, between year 2 and year 3 for internships, and also for the PhD project. Again, I wanted to do an internship, but I was clueless. I know that UCL offers some internships, but they are just, again, C. elegans or Drosophila, not much that you can do with humans. But at the same time, there's so many labs at UCL that we've never heard about, because they are not out there, they are not putting themselves out there. So, UCL has this really interesting resource, UCL Iris, and it's a directory with all the names of everyone working in research, so from professors to PhD students to postdocs in labs. And what I did, and they are grouped by departments, by field, so if you want cancers, you can select cancer, but if you want cancer and stem cells, then you select both fields, and then it returns you a list of everyone working in cancer at UCL in a UCL lab. So what I did to find an internship twice during my undergrad, I went on this list, and again, I was trying to find anything remotely connected to humans. And I sent the exact same email template to, I think, 100 people from that list. I've never met them, ever. And yes, you're gonna be sending the exact same template to everyone. Okay, make it sound like you know them. I know I've written your work and I'm super interested in that. But I was saying the exact same thing to people working in cancer, people working in stem cells. Again, just to get that exposure. You send that email out, 95% of those people will never reply to you. Four of them will say that, sorry, that's not possible, I'm busy or whatever, but all you need is one. You need one to say yes, and that's exactly what happened. I sent 100 emails, 2 people got back to me saying, actually, we might get interested in having you as an intern. I met with them and I decided to go with a super nice guy from Cancer Institute, UCL Cancer Institute. I worked there for a summer, we even published during that summer. I was just super lucky, and that's the same thing that I did during year 2 and 3, and also how I got my PhD project, just by randomly emailing people. And that's probably the best advice I can give to you. It takes about 2 days, and I know it's really outside of your comfort zone to just send the exact same email to people saying, oh, how much I admire your work, but it works. And it gives you opportunities, and with those opportunities you can go further and further. So I did this internship between year 1 and 2 with this UCL Institute. I published something, and then the fact that I had that publication and something extra compared to other people, I managed to secure my second internship at UCL Institute the next year. It was super competitive, but the fact that everyone is like a mushroom, everyone has the exact same thing, exact same degree, exact same qualifications. If you just go and have something, a 1% extra out there, it's gonna be so easy for them to select you. And that's the best tip I can give to you. And then I applied the exact same thing once again after my master's. I was lost before starting the PhD, trying to find projects. And it's impossible to know if you like something if you never tried it before. Exactly like the IVF examples. Or you might think that you like stem cells, but that's because you've seen stem cells. It's impossible for you to know if you like biotechnology if you've never seen biotechnology before, so on and so forth. Just try it out, see if you like it or if you don't like it. And applying the same principle, I got to work with a super cool group at Great Thomas Street Institute for Child's Health. They are engineers and biologists, and what they do is something pretty cool. At Great Thomas Street Hospital for Child's Health, they get the rare cases of babies born with so many rare diseases. Everything is about rare diseases. People from all over the world are being treated here, just babies and children. And whenever they have a baby that's being born with a heart anomaly, so that's a malformation inside the heart, just for you to imagine, the heart of the baby, of a newborn, is, I think, way smaller than one AirPod. So super tiny. During pregnancy, they can tell that there's something wrong with the baby and that baby needs immediate surgery after they are born. But because the heart is so small, you're limited by the 2D images that you get with an MRI scan or with a CT scan. So you need to cut the baby during surgery, put the baby under anesthesia, and then see what's wrong with the heart, and on the spot come up with surgical plan on how to actually operate on that baby. So you waste loads of time, and it's so inaccurate because you're under pressure. So they decided to do something very smart. So once those babies were born, those babies were undertaking CT or MRI scanning. You get the 2D images of the heart, and this group decided to use the exact same virtual reality headsets that are being used for gaming. And with the 2D images, they were constructing 3D models of the baby's heart that was about to have surgery. So before the surgery, like 2 days before the surgery, the entire surgical team, nurses, surgeons, were coming to us in the office. They were putting the headsets on, and they were able to make the heart bigger, make it smaller, manipulate it, cut and slice through it. So for example, if I cut here, this is what's going to happen. Simulate the blood flow. Do all these things before the surgery, so when the surgery day comes, they know exactly where to cut, and how to perform the surgery. So you have the plan ready. And that's exactly what we've done. This is the surgical team, and you can see, so this is a simulation of what the blood would look like once the blood is filling the heart. So if you cut like this, or if you cut like that, you can basically make the heart bigger and put your head inside the heart, and you see how the blood would be flowing inside, which is just so cool. So I definitely love that. And again, being able to really make an impact with the work that you're doing, so something that's visible. And you can see all the small vessels in the brain, in the heart, the exact same principle, and how you implant the stem, for example, talking about very small baby hearts. And then that was an experience that I loved, but I thought, I love my genetics field. I'm not going to be going into that for the rest of my life to do VR. I mean, it's fun, but again, it's a side hustle. And then this happened. 2 years ago, I somehow applied and became a teaching fellow to lead this master's. My students, I have students who are 40 or 50, so way more mature than I am, and they are still my students. And to me, this just felt surreal. To me, this thing unlocked so many things in my head because my confidence was still not there. And I just realized that, hold on a second, you don't need to be the smartest one in the room. And that's okay, I'm not the smartest one in the room, but in everything you do, you need to put yourself out there and show the other person what you can do for them, how you can help them. It always needs to be a win-win situation. So with this master's program, the person who created that, decided to create her own company and exit. So this entire master's program was left uncovered, and they were really looking for someone. They put applications out there for someone. So by the way, you need to have a PhD to be able to do this. I'm still finishing my PhD now, but I've been doing this for 2 years. So I just applied, saying that I know virtual reality, I know how artificial intelligence works, and I would be more than happy to be part of that and help students apply those principles into biology. I know how AI works, but I will never be able to explain how the exact algorithms are functioning or how they work in detail, but I know how to apply them. So I know a bit about AI, and I know a bit about biology, and I also know how to combine them. Again, I'm putting myself out there and saying that I'm not an expert in AI, and that's perfectly fine. But to them, the most important bit was just showing students that AI is there, and this is how you can use AI to put your idea forward when it comes to science. So that's why they got me, and then during interviews everything was fine, and at the end, after I signed the contract, they were like, so when did you finish your PhD? I was like, still doing it. And they realized that actually this has never happened before, and I became the youngest teaching fellow at UCL ever, which is very humbling to me, and I'm not saying this to brag about it, but just saying this, that as a woman, especially, this is quite powerful, and I've had some pretty bad experiences with lecturers in here at UCL in biosciences, and I promised myself that I want to be there for my students, and I really want to help them, again, find new pathways and find atypical things that they really love doing, and create their own pathways rather than following someone else's path when it comes to careers. And it's just amazing. And again, the takeaway message from this, I would say, is take all the experiences that you have, try to combine them into something that you love, and again, think of what you can do for an organization or for a person when it comes to internship. It needs to be a win-win all the time. And then remember that experience with VR and everything. One stupid example that I did over the summer and I absolutely loved. I got the hang of technology. I still don't know how everything works in detail, but you don't need that. And I went to the other co-director of mine at the institute and said, hey, I have this pretty cool idea. This was during lockdown. What if we get some headsets, some VR headsets, and we do teaching in VR for our master students? So they had, one of their assessments was to find the paper from Nature or Big Journal and to convey the results of the paper in lay audience format. So very, very basic, from explaining what DNA is to technology and all stuff. So we got the patient leaflets from the students that they created, and we got a virtual reality gallery space. So rather than having paintings on the walls, we put the patient leaflets on the walls of these virtual galleries. And then every single student was able to come into this virtual world and really interact with each other, them being in completely different countries because this was during lockdown. And this is how we created this. So these are my students, and this is me, patient leaflets this way. So you can access this room with VR, but also from your laptop. And you can see these are the patient leaflets, these are the students. And we really managed to create this really cool environment, and we decided to keep VR, and VR is now a major part of the teaching that we do. So in January, for example, now we applied for a grant with Facebook, and we got 10 headsets for the students. And now, even though we are not in lockdown anymore, we use the headsets for teaching to simulate the heart scenario, so to allow the students to cut through hearts and all that, but also to do this kind of teaching in VR, so to bring 3D models in and to do stuff like that, so to create patient leaflets and advertise them in the metaverse. But that's just to show how something that I did that seemed completely unrelated, like where I'm going to be using VR ever in my life, it's just one experience that I learned and I could easily apply to teaching, and that was a big plus for the teaching experience. But again, I realized that I love teaching, and I realized being there for my students, but in a very not formal way. Again, being there and really building a rapport with the students, becoming friends and really understanding what it is that you want to follow as a career. So I felt that I really love that, rather than preaching to a room full of 500 students at a time, like the biochemistry module that I'm pretty sure that you have in year one. But anyway, I decided that I love teaching, and maybe I have a hat of an entrepreneur as well. I always love that. Initially, before applying to do human genetics, I applied to do medicine in here, but I was an international student, and my baccalaureate qualifications at that time didn't match the A levels, and I got rejected straight away. And then realized that if you want to apply to medicine in here, you have 2 separate open days. You have an open day at UCL for home students, and you have another open day for international students. And the information that's being presented on both days varies hugely. And as an international student, you really don't have access to the right information, and you're just being left out there to wonder with all the anxiety, and no one is really telling you what to do. So out of that frustration, I decided to do the exact opposite thing and really help international students with getting into medical school and getting into sciences. So with some friends, we opened an organization helping international students from every single country out there, school students, and telling them how to get into medical school and sciences. Before COVID, we invited these were some students from Hong Kong who visited UCL, and I took them in the lab and we did some experiments together, and some of them are now students here at UCL. One thing that we absolutely love doing is being invited by schools in Dubai, in Hong Kong, in China to do school presentations for the schools, and to really inspire students that, hey, you can be there, be confident that you can achieve that one day, to be able to study at a cool university like UCL. By the way, they love, so in those countries, UCL is like, oh, the best university. And this is my joke, that sometimes I really feel that I'm Hannah Montana on tour. So our summers are really filled, so we go from one country to another. It was one summer that we visited 19 countries in one summer, just doing presentations, school presentations. I love traveling, and to me, yes, now I kind of became this whatever entrepreneur, but it's finding the pathway that really makes me happy rather than making anyone else happy. So now I'm running research internships online, helping students from all around the world go into a lab. We go into the lab with UCL Genomics, we film everything in the lab. This is a pipette. You're in year 9, it's impossible for you to know what a pipette is. And they absolutely love it. So somehow I combine my passion for research, teaching, and entrepreneurship as well. But I think this is my final slide. The most important thing in finding your way is all of these things. How am I going to be different, and what are my strong points? But the most important thing ever is networking. Networking with people, because you never know who might be looking for some help with their company or their project, and you might go there, you get an experience, and that experience, you never know where you're going to be applying that experience again. And in terms of how do you network part, this is a thing that I'm very, very proud of, and I would definitely encourage you to sign up. It's called the Science Entrepreneur Club. It was started 5 years ago by some UCL students, master students in sciences, that paired up with Imperial, Cambridge, and other universities. Everything was student-led, and with some biotech companies. And it's basically a network of showing students, PhD students, even scientists, what's out there outside of academia. So they do lots of networking events in pubs or more formal settings like company visits, where they invite students and all sorts of health professionals, so from academic writers to science writers to people working in the law side of science. So everyone getting together, and you just get to meet so many people and realize that the world of life sciences is very small, and just putting yourself out there is the most incredible thing. This is the website, and they run free events. Actually, they had a free event now, tonight. So they do monthly events for students, and it's honestly one of the most incredible things that happened to me, because I got to meet so many cool people through this project. And everyone is London-based or Oxford-based or Cambridge-based, and everything is happening in London usually. And yeah, another thing that I do is social media now, about putting myself out there. I decided to open this small page, Genes and Tonic, where I just talk about women's health and what I do as a scientist to the lay audience. And I thought at the beginning that this is very silly, who on earth is going to be listening to me? Who am I to be a science influencer, whatever? But then I realized that there's so many opportunities that I got out of this. Exactly like this one, you guys invited me to talk, or I get invited to travel to conferences or present my work. There's so many things that you'll never be expecting to result out of this. And I definitely encourage you to be open to new opportunities and put yourself out there. And I guess that's my message. Meet people and get involved in different things to know exactly what your passion is gonna be, because it's impossible to know if you like something unless you tried it before. And find a mentor. Find a mentor and try to not imitate, but get inspiration from their journey. And maybe that will help you as well. And people are really, especially people in London, are very eager to give back as well. So to take you under their wing and to help you with things and suggestions and all that. So yeah, I guess that's my